So I finished college and worked for a year and was not happy with where I was and knew that I either needed to find a new job or go back to school or both. And so I did both. And I was kind of debating between applying to law school and just taking the GRE and applying to grad school. And I was doing research for programs that were related to like publishing and editing. And that's how I found this. And I was trying to decide between the school of communication at Georgia State and then this program. And the curriculum here had a lot more specific courses that I was really interested in. So that's where I kind of decided to go.
And I had always wanted to go back to graduate school, never got around to it with work and children and life. But Hannah sent me a link of this program. She said, I think I'm going to apply to this program. And I read through the information in the curriculum and I'm like, wait a second, this is what I want to do. you can't do it, this is what I want to do. And so I started in the certificate program this semester after she started in the MAPW program. At the end of last year, I took the GRE and applied for the full program. So now,
I was working as a county government and education reporter at the Douglas County Sentinel, and I had an editor there who was, he was really kind about my work, and I remember mentioning it to him, and he, initially was very, supportive. He thought it would be a good idea for me to do that. He never wanted me to feel like I was going to get cornered into this job. When you're a reporter, you don't really have the opportunity to have weekends or holidays off. And, I'm not married or I don't have any kids yet, but I plan on doing those things. And I could see with his life, I could see with a lot of other reporters' lives that it makes it really difficult to have a good home life when you're doing that job. I still love being a journalist, but I definitely want a job where I can be a good husband and a good dad. I felt like having a master's degree would help me do that.
So most of what I was doing and studying was more reading than it was writing, which is wonderful, obviously, because you get a familiarity with, classic literature and how writing is formed, essentially, and, you have to be able to read well and write well. But as a result, that track for undergraduates oftentimes is more like to teach, like for teaching prep, I would say. And that wasn't initially my game plan. So I'm in the TA program to sort of see if this is something I could do for the long term or if it's something that my tutoring experience has helped to build up. But when I was an undergrad, I didn't have intentions of going into teaching as like a long-term career. So I really wanted to go into graduate school, hoping to sort of round myself as a writer as best as possible.
Yeah, so I wanted to go into event planning, which I did for a little while and didn't like it at all. So my first year out of college, I worked for Emory and was doing something that I wasn't really interested in. It was just like a job that I had to pay the bills and stuff. And so towards the end of my first year there, I was looking for other jobs and I was looking at grad school. Because at that point I had considered the idea of going to law school and I just wasn't sold on it. I thought that I think I would enjoy law school more than being a lawyer. So I took the GRE instead, and when I was looking at grad school or grad programs in publishing and editing and things like that to potentially work for like a publishing house. And that's how I came across the MAPW program. I kind of saw, and there aren't any other programs like that anywhere near here, and I wasn't looking to move for it, so I applied.
I have thought about going to graduate school ever since I graduated from college, and my intention initially was that I was going to get my Master's of Arts in Teaching, got engaged and moved up to Baltimore instead. And then I considered going to seminary, and just with the kids in the house and full-time work and travel and things like that, it just wasn't the right time. And now that the kids are out of the house and in school and working and whatever, it was just the perfect time for me to be able to do it. And it's the perfect program for me because it's exactly what I'm interested in. I don't have to take any classes that aren't something that I'm just really excited about taking the classes. So.
After the first semester, I was able to get GRAs, which really helped with tuition. I don't know. I mean, KSU, I had spent my undergrad there. Outside of 2 years at another university, KSU is what I knew as a college, and it's a wonderful university where I really came into my own as a writer. When I first transferred there, I wasn't really sure how to break into the newspaper or the school magazine that I wrote for in undergrad. But once I did, that's when my grades really, I started succeeding academically like I had never had before. And it was because I found writing, and I found this great community at KSU with all these, teachers and people on staff that, just want college students to succeed. So I had experienced that at KSU, and I knew that they had it there. And so I felt like, their master's program would be same thing.
I felt that in terms of career and what I wanted to get into, there were very limited possibilities. I started thinking, okay, I want to go not into journalism, but maybe into something different and broader with my with editing. And all we had was our local newspaper, the Review Journal. I'm like, okay, we got to look elsewhere. So I always thought, because I was born in Atlanta, and my parents moved around a lot, that I'm thinking, okay, well, I've been to Atlanta for visiting and stuff as well since I was younger. Maybe I would like to live there or establish myself there. So I basically looked into the programs and coincidentally found that one of the very few professional writing graduate programs or master's programs was in Kennesaw, Georgia. And at the time, I'm like, well, I don't know anything about Kennesaw, so let me just look on Google Maps to figure out how close to Atlanta that actually is. And well, we know exactly how close it is, obviously. So I was just ecstatic about it. I'm like, that sounds like a real possibility to me.
I don't really write fiction. I've tried a little bit, but I don't. And I know that teaching is not something that I'm interested in either. But I love writing. I like writing blogs, and I guess it's all considered nonfiction. And just the course load for the applied track just seemed like what I really was interested in and what I thought that I wanted to do. So.
Well, that's what my interest has always been. I started writing, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago. And just kept writing stories. I've done that. November is National Novel Writing Month thing a couple of times. And so when Hannah sent me the link, said, I think I'm going to apply to this program, I was like, hey, wait a second, that's what I want to do. And so seeing that they had a creative writing track, I just figured I'd give it a whirl.
It seemed like the most practical one for the workforce. Creative is fun, and it's nice. And then rhetoric is great if you want to have a career in academia. But as far as I don't want to use the word real world, but the non-academic, non-Stephen King world, it's a plot.
But when I was an undergrad, I didn't have intentions of going into teaching as a long-term career. So I really wanted to go into graduate school hoping to sort of round myself as a writer as best as possible. And for me, that often meant writing in organizations or, familiarizing myself with publication and technical writing and things like that. So obviously the most logical and fitting track was probably going to be the applied track.
So while I was working in weddings, I realized yeah, I love weddings, but I don't want to be a coordinator, and that's kind of what got me reinterested in photography, which I had dabbled in through high school, but I really started shooting again like 2 summers ago. And so right now my capstone project is like a how-to book on like the business side of wedding photography. And what I realized is that like the wedding industry, you have to be good at what you do, like your main craft, but everybody blogs, everybody writes, people submit to publications all the time. So I'm hoping that I will be able to shoot full-time sometime soon. Just the pure communication skills that I've gotten from this program have helped me so much in my business. Because I mean, I have client communication all the time. I do everything from accounting to marketing to talking with the clients to actually shooting, and so there's a lot of like written and verbal skills that are required in order to do that successfully. And I think having this degree like under my belt has really helped, or will really help, has really helped. Like what I've learned so far has really helped my business.
Well, I have one novel that I've finished that I've actually submitted to one publisher, but I have plans to submit elsewhere. I'll look at that this summer when I have time. And then I have this other novel that I said that I would probably work on my capstone, that I'm hoping I can get to a point where maybe somebody will want to publish it. And I've got a couple of others in my brain. I think mostly young adult, actually, which kind of surprises me. I didn't know that was where I was going, but so I'm hoping I'll just keep writing and publishing.
You know, I don't know. I've done well with class projects and stuff. Like in Sergio's class, I made a video for this chocolatier in Kennesaw, and he's used it on his social media. So I know video production and like video digital content, I can do that. So I know I can do a bunch of different kinds of writing and different writing for different medias, and that's in demand. I feel like that's always going to be in demand as far as the job industry. I created a podcast actually in Sergio's class that I want to continue with. It's called Nonprofit Step by Step, and I look at a different nonprofit every episode, and I look at their entire process. Like the pilot episode was about the Hunters for the Hungry. There was such a need for people to see places where if they donated their time and money, it would be going to a good thing. So that's really what it's about. So I want to pursue that along with whatever I choose to do in my career.
I know I want to go into editing, whether that means starting off as freelancing with local businesses and working with like marketing materials and editing, like doing specific line editing of flyers and promotional materials. That's the more likely possibility in terms of like the immediate future after graduation. I have strange suspicions that I may not be permanently in Atlanta for me to pursue my editing career. I've been looking at things like publication houses in like Seattle and stuff like that, which would be very interesting. I haven't quite wrapped my head around what I'd be doing or where I'd be doing that. But there's a possibility of relocation still, but ultimately wherever work takes me, I am willing to keep an open mind and probably follow.